Hey, it's Nikki. We have a podcast on our network called Working Forward. It's all about future of work topics. And there's a special series that we do in the PeopleForward Network community, myself with our Chief Strategy Officer, Jason Cochran, and we break down the inner workings of PeopleForward Network and how we're doing some things to really model the way of what it's like to lead and live out what it means to be a people-forward organization. So I hope that you enjoy the special bonus episode that I recorded with my dear pal, Jason Cochran.
Welcome to Working Forward Conversations, a special live, unfiltered episode hosted inside the PFN community where we explore bold, working forward ideas we adopt and use here at PeopleForward Network. Enjoy.
All right, everybody, we are back with another Working Forward conversation. We had a 2-week vacation. You had a 2-week vacation. How are you feeling after vacation?
I'm so excited to be back for this. I really enjoyed this series. I feel like we flow. We really share some good nuggets. I'm writing down like, I need to do something here, right? It's a learning experience. So I really enjoy this, and I'm coming back a little overwhelmed with all the things to do, but like I feel really fresh right now in the moment and ready to dive in.
That's the pesky thing about vacations is when you come back and you hop in, you're like, whoa. And then you're like, now I get why some people like are checking in and trying to keep up with stuff even while they're on vacation. But I'll tell you, the other thing that's been fun too is hearing from our team as we produce these episodes and they're out on our podcast channels, Gut Plus Science and Working Forward, is hearing a lot of the feedback from listeners that we're touching on things about things that either, hey, we've got this figured out, or sometimes we're sharing things like, we're trying to figure this out. We're struggling through this, but here's how we're thinking about it, how we're approaching it.
Yes.
We're hearing a lot of feedback from leaders that they appreciate that we're kind of like doing a fishbowl here. And today we're going to be talking about what one of our culture code pieces is serve the greater good. And I think today's episode where we're going to be talking about purpose over profit really ties in well with that culture code. So maybe let's start with this, Nikki, before we kind of get into how we're doing things at PFN in terms of how we structure the company. What does purpose maybe mean for you? When you hear purpose, what are some things that come to mind?
Well, I'm coming off of a episode on Addicted to Betterment that I just did with Dr. Teddy Sidoris and John Nieders, and we were leaning into the topic of healthy, meaningful relationships. And during the course of the conversation, I brought up the example of people I've met in my life that they're so in tune with who they are, knowing who they are, that you just can tell the presence of like, man, they've done the work to know who they are. They know their gifts. They know their purpose. They know when to say no to things. And like, there's just a confidence about that. And so when I think like purpose, as individual people and humans that collectively get to work on a team, it's using our God-given strengths, the things that energize us, the ikigai, if you will, and being able to do that in our work. And as a leader, like you just ripple that. You can either tell if someone's operating in that genius zone or, their natural element, right? They're living their purpose. And the more that you have a team that is all doing that together, right? Like not just recruiting to fill seats, but recruiting to put people in seats that are truly the right fit. There's such magic there when we're all operating in our purpose. That's the first thing I thought of when you asked the question.
Yeah, I love all of that. And it's absolute truth. And the interesting thing is, as a species, I've thought about this recently, is it takes us a long time to figure out who we are. As Homo sapiens, there's a lot of other species, I think, to figure out. I look at our cats. Our cats are 1 year old. And I'm like, they know how to use the litter box. They know to do the cat things. But human beings, we have to bake pretty long. Our prefrontal cortex of the brain, in terms of a lot of those executive functions, higher order functions, that stuff doesn't typically crystallize until mid-20s. And so just as a species, it takes a long time for us to figure out who we are. And then on an individual level, as you were putting it, and our strengths, our talents, and how that fits into work. And so it's not a surprise to me after the way you just described it, that not only I think that sometimes we individually struggle in terms of knowing ourselves and purpose, but I don't think it's a surprise sometimes that companies can sometimes struggle with understanding the purpose. As preparing for this, I thought, what would be really interesting? I want to know what some of the purpose statements are for some companies often hear like vision statements or things like that. But I was curious, is like, I wonder if there's some interesting purpose statements out there for some companies. I just wanted to rattle off with you and get your reactions to some of these. Johnson and Johnson's is to help people around the world live longer, healthier, and happy lives. Spotify, I love this one, to unlock the potential of human creativity. Tesla, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Google, to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And so I just wanted to share a few of those too, because I think there's, we're zooming in on individual purpose today too, but I think there's also this piece of like, many times people want to see their individual purpose and how it links up with these big, huge dreams and amazing things that seem impossible that you probably couldn't do on your own. But that if you're in the right place, in the right seat, with the right team, doing the right things, that you're like, this is a pretty cool purpose that we could achieve together. Did any of those strike a chord with you?
Yeah, I love those. The question in return is, how do the team members of those companies, the employees, how well do they know that? Is that something that's living? Is it alive? Because their statements, I think all of them are very inspiring. I think the question is, how alive is it? It started to make me think about PeopleForward Network, and we have our why statement to help all people experience meaningful work. When I look at, okay, really, truly like the purpose on our team, it's to help. That is why PeopleForward Network started. It's why the podcast, it's why we've always been in this space, is meaningful work. We get one shot at this life. We get one opportunity. And how many times do we choose money, like profit, right? We're talking purpose over profit, money over making the best choice for ourselves, right? We made it because, I feel insecure, so I've got to like just take this job, but it's not filling my purpose. Granted, we sometimes have to have those stepping stones, but at PeopleForward Network, I mean, we want to live it from the inside out. We're here to help all people experience meaningful work. And the greatest, check mark of excellence for our team members is that they are experiencing purpose in their role, right seat. Like, it's like, I love this work. And sometimes, it comes to a question of, crossroads, and I love Marsha Barnes taught me this a long time ago. She said, whenever there's a time that someone isn't the fit anymore, my job is to help them live their purpose, their God-given purpose. She very much brings Christianity into a lot of her leadership. She's like, their God-given purpose. And I am there to connect them to the next thing. And I take responsibility for being the connector to the next thing. Not just see ya, thank you for being here for the time, but being the connector to help them on the pursuit of their purpose in their work, which she's very passionate about too. I always have held on to that. Like, I want to be that,
That's so good. Yeah, the connector piece of like, it's not just like wanting to like work in isolation, but understanding where does this connect to the other things that other people are doing, into this larger purpose of like, okay, this is something really neat that's really important.
Yeah.
Here we need to get done, and doing it together is the way that we accomplish that. As you were talking about that, and you brought this back to the name of today's episode is Purpose Over Profit, and bringing it back to the money aspect is, we noticed in gathering a lot of those purpose statements, none of them were about being the highest valued company in the world. And so it's one of those things, like, we all get, if you're in business, you know that you have to make money. It's table stakes, right? But that's not your if you lead that's your purpose, that doesn't invigorate people. That doesn't get people to be like, yeah, I wake up every day thinking we have to go make more money, kind of thing. It's like, yes, we know that's part of business, is we have to go make more money, but that isn't what you lead with. It's not profit over purpose. It's the reverse. And I think sometimes there are a lot of companies that may miss the mark on that, or even leaders at times, where if it feels like you're just constantly saying, we have to get to these levels, we have to get to this next level, we have to get to this next level, but there's not also at the same time a lot of those nurturing, remember, this is what the bigger picture is. This is where we're headed. This is why we're doing these things, and how it's going to change the world, how it's going to make, life better for these people and for ourselves, and how it's going to help us unlock our dreams. When we miss those components and it's just hamster wheel, and continue to climb up kind of like that corporate ladder of more money, more money, more money, that is a quick path to burnout. And I think it's why we're seeing a good number of people who have started rejecting the corporate lifestyle. Started happening with COVID, but it seems to be pretty consistent now in terms of how many people look for other opportunities outside of corporate America for those very reasons.
Totally. And I think, what's sustainable over time, just like if you look at, your personal life, and we've all done it, we've chased the external thing, the car, the house, the title, the whatever, right? And for whatever reason, it was important at that time, but you get past that thing and you're like, what's next, right? It's not a deep rooted, sustainable thing. Money is a fluctuating thing. Do we have to have it? Just like you made the point. Absolutely. Any healthy business, that's a critical indicator, and to be able to keep your people, right? And to be able to do great things, but the purpose has to be over the profit. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
What you just said there sparked for me. The reason I'm smiling is I was just thinking of the twins' birthday.
Yeah.
Ford and Knox, our two youngest sons. And what was funny was at their birthday, and I'm reminded of this by kids, is the excitement of opening a present, and then it's immediately on to the next one.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, yo, that's so awesome. Chuck it off to the side. Where's the next one? Kind of thing. And that's what popped in my head is the mentality sometimes when it's the chase for money, it's the chase for the next thing. When the purpose isn't there, when it isn't grounded in good values, when it isn't grounded in good connection, then a lot of those things are just fleeting. And it can lead to feeling like listlessness or feeling like you're just going through motions and wondering, am I just doing this for a paycheck, or is this actually moving the needle? And I think that's why we really enjoy having us grounded at PeopleForward Network around this concept of meaningful work for everyone. Just like those other purpose statements we heard from those other companies, that's something to be excited about and understand that each day when you're showing up, that you're making contributions toward that. And we're supporting our partners who also are supporting that mission in their own unique ways too, which is special.
Totally. So good. I was going to share a research project that we did in my career journey at a company called Amplify. I might come back to that in case it applies, because that's when I was like going to say something, but you made me think of something else here when it comes to PeopleForward Network and our pursuit of meaningful work. When I originally was thinking meaningful work, I'm like, okay, using my strengths, feeling like I'm making an impact, growing, being around people that I love to work with, those kinds of things. What came to be from PeopleForward Network team members, and I couldn't agree more, I just didn't see this until people gave feedback on it, was that the number one thing that the team prioritizes for meaningful work is work-life integration. I didn't know that back then. It's become my priority as well. Yes, I want to be operating my strengths and all of those things. Very important. But the top priority has become work-life integration for us. So much that we're now on this roadmap we've said for a couple of years, we really want to be a 4-day work week company. We don't know how that will look or when we're going to get there, but we're aspiring for that. It's just making me think right now, Jason, this is where these are so helpful, because now I'm like, I had never thought about this. This was something I'm going to take and do. When I think, why does half of our team, the ones that have been at PFN the longest, I'll give a shout out to Chelsea and Ashley on this. Brittany, I think, is a lot like this too. They are regularly saying no, going back to when I said, when someone knows themselves so well, they're like, we know how we operate. We say no to this. We say yes to this. They have become efficiency masters because they know, hey, if this meeting isn't worth my time, I don't want to be on the meeting. Like it's not what's needed today. I value playing Uno with my daughter at 3:00 when she gets off the bus. And this might take me from that. I need to run groceries because I really want to be with my family while it's still light out tonight. And, it gets dark earlier or whatever season it is. And it's so important that as a team, we're all like, I didn't realize this, but through the journey, because everyone feels so passionate about our work-life integration, that we're all challenged to figure out, how do we work more efficiently and help each other honor time boundaries and whatever. That's cool. I just never really thought about that, but
I hadn't either. And it ties in perfectly to purpose, because that's a purpose for everyone on the team, is living out the work-life integration.
Yes.
And helping be an example. And I'll speak to myself on that one too, in terms of like on Slack, whenever I'm going to work out in the middle of the day, because I can't do workouts at 4:30 a.m. in the morning. before the boys are gone. I can't. I could have done that in my 30s. I can't do that in my mid 40s anymore. Sleep is too important.
Yeah.
I can't do it in the evening once they're off the bus because it's playtime with all 4 boys. And so it's like, if I'm going to get my workouts in, it has to be during the day. I have to flex it in because it's not happening before or after a traditional work schedule. And I've been so grateful for that. But the other piece that I've been grateful about with it is whenever I mark it on Slack or I put it in my calendar, I don't feel guilty about it. It's not like I'm trying to hide it and be like, oh my gosh, is anyone on the team going to be like, why is he working out during the day?
Yeah.
Everyone gets it and everyone celebrates that for each other. And I even love how we celebrate many times in our OOO Slack channel that we put that out there. And I view it more as, yes, you're letting everyone know that there's certain days you're not going to be around. But the other purpose behind it is to celebrate. And no one ever feels like guilty or ashamed or anything of putting those days in or putting on Slack that like, hey, 2 or 3 hours during the quote unquote traditional workday during the middle of the day, I may be out. I love that that's a way that we live out purpose at PFN, to your point, because that's a strong purpose for a lot of our team members who value that, especially in the season of life.
So good. And it brings it right back to when you originally said greater good. I have a very specific way that I see greater good. That's a spiritual learning that I had and then applied into business. But when I'm thinking about your workouts, okay, and that's your health. It is the most precious thing we have. You're not going to get up at 4:30 because you know like how sleep is and kids in the morning. And then, you can't do it after the traditional workout or workday. What is most important is our health. If we are not healthy, we can't be productive at work. If we're sick and whatever, that's the greater good. The greater good is supporting someone who got to take care of our health. And as a team, we figure out how to do that well. The one caveat I'm going to say that's really important here. There's way more that don't get this than do. So this is really important. If you're going to work in this kind of rhythm with all this flexibility, work-life integration, trusting each other, prioritizing the greater good of health, the way it works is being a results-focused company. So we're all rowing in the same direction. We know we're working on the same goals. Are we perfect in conveying every single goal and all that? No, we are rowing in the same direction and work together as a team on key outcomes. And we're all accountable because once we know, Chelsea, as another example, many times has said, the reason that I know that I can go on the walk during the day or the grocery store or Uno at 3:00, because I know exactly my outcomes that I need to get done. And I built my workday for that. She's like, right now with a new baby, half the time I'm working at 3:30 in the morning and I love it. She's like, and I love being up working, but that's allowing me to design my life. And I have no stress or guilt because I know my results. But if you don't have that, if you don't have that component, you just started to implement a lot of what we said. If you don't have the clear results, right? You're not rowing in the right direction. That could be an absolute disaster. So I just want to give a quick warning there. You got to have that foundation.
That's a very important warning. Very similar to a lot of the stuff with remote work. Like you just can't flip the switch and be like, okay, we're going from this all the way to you actually have to have the structures and stuff in place. And so that's a great reminder on those pieces.
Yeah.
With the other purpose components at PFN, what are some other things that come to mind for you that you want to cover that you think would be helpful for listeners today, Nikki?
I think as a leader, this is where I'll insert that Amplify data that I still use all the time today because I found it so powerful. And some examples, I was like, oh my gosh, it just really resonated and it's helped a lot. As a leader, we are here to help the people that we lead and work alongside to live their purpose. That's your job. That is what a leader is. A manager can be a leader. Anybody can be a leader. A leader is there to guide others on their journey, to help them advance and to build them up and to make them great. And there's nothing better or more impactful you could do than help someone live their purpose. When you live your purpose, you feel fulfilled. And that's meaningful work is one component of that, right? So the study at Amplify broke down 4 components to meaningful work. So at any given time, we are pursuing one of these 4 as the main priority, and then the others might fall behind. We might be doing them all, but there's one that's taking the precedent, right? And as a leader, we figure out what that is, and different seasons of life change these things. And the 4 are Purpose, status, money, influence. So at any given time in our career, the main thing that we are pursuing, I'll just start with the money one, because there's a guy that stood up at a session and raised his hand. He said, I feel like I always get picked on. I chose to be the only breadwinner of our home. He said, we have 6 kids. My wife stays at home and she homeschools. It's the way that we chose to run our family. I am the only provider, the only source of income. Money is my number one at this source in my time of my life until my kids or whatever. Not that I don't value meaning, and not that but the way that he said, and I don't want to be judged, or I don't want to be picked at when I'm asking for raises or whatever, right? Like, he's like, this is so important because this is the way we're running our life and no one else is making money besides me. And there's 6 kids to 8 people, right? And I was like, gosh, that's so powerful. And if you know, as a leader, okay, how do I help them, kind of like dream manager perspective? How do I help them lean into that path? Because that's what's most important versus, we said, purpose, status, money, influence, status. Okay. When I was 25, legit, there was a reason that I was climbing a ladder on title. It's part of the game, right? Like, you don't have the connections, you don't have the people, it's part of the game of business to be able to get to that next. And I remember in my 20s, I became a VP, and I remember a lot of things changed there. But I really, really wanted that. After that was done, it's kind of like the kids on the birthday. It's like, okay, old news, right? Yep. But it got to what I needed. It wasn't like my lifelong meaning thing. It helped me with the next step to be able to then go to that and really start to open up, allowing me to pursue my like purpose and work from there, truly, after that. But I think it's just, as you asked, what else would I say here? And I think that the core is, as a leader, as a people first leader, the greatest thing that you can do is help people match them to purposeful work, meaningful work that makes them, and understand things change, right? Like, one thing could be their priority this year, the next year it changes, and we have to be in relationship to help with that.
That's such an important perspective. I love that you shared that, because sometimes I know I'm guilty of this. I can be stuck in my own head of being like, this is important for me. This is probably important to everybody else too. And it may not be. A good example of that was, I was reminded recently that sometimes purpose for some people is the actual paycheck itself, especially in these economic times. Is they may be like, if it's helping put food on the table to feed my family, then it's serving its purpose. Yeah. And what you shared there across those 4 dimensions is a good reminder that there are so many different perspectives of purpose.
Yeah.
And we have to show up and listen to others to hear what that is and really connect to it. And that sometimes there may be situations, especially with the way things have been in the economy this year so far, that a lot of people, I think, are in more of that I'm thankful for the paycheck kind of thing, because of just a lot of the worries and anxiety and stress going on in the economy right now. And we didn't want to lose sight of that either. So I love that story, that there's the 4 dimensions and different seasons of life and different factors that affect it. And that for some people, there's probably a good number of them that right now, the purpose they're saying is, it's given us, what we need to be able to pay our bills each month. And that's okay too.
Yeah. I heard a piece of it on a session you and I were on, Jason, but also in the background, I'm hearing things a lot with my husband. Can't Stop the Growth is implementing this new base offering as the core of their learning and development programming. And it's career mapping. And you may have heard, I've heard this example a lot, but I heard Danny say yesterday something like, hey, well, how many of you, I was talking to owners in home services that were on this meeting, and how many of you have people come to you that work for you and they're asking for a raise, like they want a raise, and you saw the heads are like, yeah. He's like, yeah, it's not a foreign thing. Like, people are going to come asking for raises. Now, what if we gave them a path like that? This is why the software is like so popular and needed, and they're getting such a great response, is because there's pressure, like from an owner, like if everybody's looking for a raise in the economy, and it's like, what do we do? I don't know what to do. Like, we don't, but if we have something that creates a path where those team members are contributing to the business and they get a piece, and we create like this kind of ownership collaboration, that's what the career mapping is doing, is they get brought into helping to grow the business, to grow their career and to advance. And like, all these owners in this home service comes, they're like, sign me up, please, please. It's going to help these conversations. It's going to help our people. It's going to help our business grow. But I think, yeah, there's just so much need, and it's about really customizing to all people, customizing the needs. One more thing that I just thought of is Amy Woodall constantly says, own your 50. She has the saying, no matter what seat you're in, it's own your 50. And I do think leaders sometimes are the ones that like get all the, well, they should have brought the conversation to the table or whatever about the, the career map or whatever. But also the team member can bring that. It's a meet in the middle. It's own our 50. Let's do this together. And I think that's a really purpose-filled feeling of a team, is when we're all like, we notice things, we come together and we find solutions together.
That's really good. And be looking for opportunities to create that extra value. So if you're looking for more, then, take that initiative and say, hey, I came up with a plan for where I see some opportunities, some gaps where we can provide value across our value chain at different points, whether it's, upsells to existing partners, whether it's new go-to-market opportunities that are just a degree different, maybe from some other core offerings that you have that would be a lower lift. Those are the types of things that you can be thinking about to help bring about more of that conversation and own your 50 toward that. I wanted to share one other thing as we're getting ready to wrap up. This was pretty serendipitous. One of our friends and partners at Predictive Index, Matt Pepsel, just so happens today, the day we're doing this episode on purpose over profit, he did a post on LinkedIn about purpose that I thought was really good. And I just wanted to share it with the listeners really quickly. If you're not following Matt on LinkedIn, it's Matt Pepsel, Poepsel, with Predictive Index. And here's what he put. He said, beyond income, there is impact. Beyond money, there is meaning. Beyond performance, there is purpose. Next level leaders understand the new world of work. For our workers, the times have changed, and so must we. We have an opportunity to help those around us connect with something larger than just their paycheck. And then he said, here's one of my favorite quotes that I've come across. If people are just going through the motions doing their work, they're not bringing their true energy and they're not performing at their best. We can't say we're too busy fueling purpose is fast. We can't say we can't afford it because fueling purpose is free. We just have to recognize our leadership opportunity and capitalize on it. But when I saw that, we should have just invited Matt to hop on the show with us today.
No kidding. Our friend Matt Pepsel, speaking truth.
That's right. So everybody's thinking a lot right now about purpose. And I do think there's a certain element to it because of the way the economics are shifting, just a lot of factors in the job marketplace that I do think a lot more people, again, that purpose is coming to mind in terms of thinking about the type of work that they find fulfilling and that they want to do, which is really exciting. And I'm glad that we are trying to help lead the way. And one of the great ways that we live it out here at PeopleForward Network is through work-life integration, because that is a big purpose component, like contributing toward meaningful work for others, but also for ourselves personally, of being able to do things that are meaningful to us, quote unquote, during the traditional workday, and focusing on results instead of time spent. And so those are some of the common threads that have to do with purpose over profit at PeopleForward Network.
We'll see you next week. This has been another great topic. Thank you so much, Jason.
Absolutely, Nikki. We'll see you next time, listeners.
Thanks for being part of this special Working Forward conversation. Want to join us live next time? Head over to bit.ly/PFN community to join our PFN community and become part of the conversation that's driving what's next in work and leadership. See you there.